Ndiyabulela, and let me start off by thanking you, Program Director, and also thank leadership, SSC-LOC, which invited us here. But in particular, thank my colleague, the Deputy Minister, Uolomisa. You could have easily stayed out, General. I know, Mama. And I really appreciate your presence, because in this big struggle, we need men on our side. As you could have heard, some of the comments that came here need us to work together with men as partners. So I really appreciate it. I know we have both agreed that we will also try and have a platform where men and women will be able to talk. So I really appreciate your presence. And can tell you, we grew up almost Sisulu all the time asking them, how did you pull it together? You were poor. It was at the highest level of repression. There was poor communication. How did you pull it together in 1956? But amongst other things, they will tell us that Otati Sisulu, especially on the day of the march, were there behind the women. They were worried, terrified, just were shocked at the bravery of women, but they were there to support them. So I see you as Sisulu are there to be with us, because ours is not an easy battle. It's not an easy one. It's a battle of socialization. Kwasecawendi, klalo data, klalo mama, zisuka nje. Kwasekaya, kono yama boys, you know those outside rooms. Azikho room to ama girls. It's a boys' room, so they are given space and independence to really develop. So it's everywhere, even with the colors, with the names. So it's not an easy struggle, because it comes just even as you are born, and you have now to undo that which you know, which is part of your DNA. So I also want to acknowledge Chief South Defense Force in his absence, but also thank our First Lady for always blessing us with the presence and being at the center of many other things. I want to really acknowledge leadership, and we're talking with the DM, we protocol because I'm going to leave other people out. So I might just as well as acknowledge the entire leadership that is there of the Defense Force, our officers, but also the men and women who are here present today. And for me, I think as a gender activist, this is one of the most exciting day in the life of a gender activist. Because on this day, Christians will always say, the blood has been shed for us. But as activists, we say, the battle has been fought for us. So all we have to do as women is to take the struggle forward and make sure that it was not a struggle in vain. So it is, Program Director, for me a privilege and a profound honor, I really mean it, to stand before you on this Women's Month. If there was anything during apartheid, we could lose everything else, but not 9 August. It didn't matter what security was put in place. We knew we had to honor that day because of its importance. So I'm very excited to be in a department where our women acknowledge and recognize the importance of this day as a day where we reaffirm ourselves, we strengthen ourselves, but we also acknowledge where people have fought for us. We have a responsibility to fight for others and sustain the struggle for women empowerment. And I did say to General, at my age, so let's take stock of where we are. Let's not, and I think like General was doing, let's not even complain because our matters are on the table. So all we have to do is to say, where are we? What are the challenges? And work together to confront them. Because standing here, Chair, I can't pretend that there were no great women before me, even in this department. It's one of the luckiest departments which was led by 3 women before. And very great women, for that matter. 2 of them were my leaders, all 3. Minister Nosibu was my president, so she was my leader. In the Women's League, I used to work under her. Minister Mudise was also my leader. I worked under her. So, and I know, as I say, as the great women that have led us, I'm not coming to a space which has not been occupied. I have the humility of saying, as I said to me, so my assumption is that we all know what we need to do. My responsibility as your minister is to work with you to take forward that which we have to do as women. And it's not anything new. Because for me, this month, this day, and as I say, I'm very proud that we have so many women we can talk. And I'm really proud of the section that organized this event. Because we need to celebrate and commemorate that day forever. Because it's a very important day for us. But it's also very important for us, especially for women in defense. And I was very proud that you really are proud, and I can tell you, you are great people. Mhlamba nazi. Niyahlonitshwa ngabantu abakhulu nje generally. Abahloniphekayo for that matter. I went to the Free State, General Mkhize, and then we went to a school where you donated shoes to them. So when they see my generals, poor kids, I was not to salute, and they go to buy salute, but fund by Babahloniphe. Now funding the bank and but engine did I be to no more certain minister, then I saw to be So that's how he respected, even in the corners where they saw the army, police, army, poor kids salute, because that's how respectable you are, and how respected you are, and that's how much loved you are. And I'm proud that you really acknowledge that you are very important. And as I say, I'm coming here with a clear understanding that a lot has been discussed, has been achieved. All we have to do is to take stock on an ongoing basis on what still needs to be done and what are the matters that were here, because we can say whatever. Like sometimes I hear people, when people are frustrated, to say, no, I don't know what has happened for us. When we came, I was a public servant in 1994 in the presidency. We were the first lot which was supposed to come and set up government. And I always tell this story. We arrived there, we obviously found people, in particular white women, very well educated. And as we were chatting with them, they would say, you know, we're never given permanent posts because we're women. The posts here, even the white government, are meant for boys. So these boys qualify boy UP. We have to teach them the work, and then they have to supervise us. So we come from a long way. And I remember we used to say, angeke. It won't happen. But what we also understood, and that's why I'm happy about this policy process, is that you won't do it angeke ka. You have to get processes, you have to go to policies, we have to monitor them and make sure that they work. One of the first things we did was to set up the gender machinery, to say we will have And that's why we had that women's empowerment document, and which is what I was actually coordinating. We had to make sure that we have policies which address our challenges, so that it's institutionalized the changes that we want. Otherwise, Angeke was not going to work alone. We had to set up targets to say, no, go 30%, before we went to 50%. I can tell you also how 50% came. But it didn't come without a plan and without a struggle. We had to organize ourselves and say, what is the machinery that we need to deal with the policies that we wanted to correct? We had to set up a gender commission. We had to get our gender points. We had to get in parliament, those who were in parliament, to have a gender forum. And that's what, as I said, when I was speaking to me, so I was very proud that there is a machinery in the department which we have to support on an ongoing basis, feed with policies and the changes that we want, and put in place. And I was glad also there are mechanisms that are there in place that we move from. So my assumption is that we don't have, is that we have a platform to move from, and we have to deal with that. Because I'm sort of got a flu. So I'm saying we cannot, we can never afford to fold our arms, because there are strides that have been achieved by this democracy that we're already building on. As I said, we found women being a contemporary. Before I came to the public service, I was a teacher. We were not even allowed, general, to fall pregnant. It was pregnant. You were judged. You fall pregnant unmarried, you lose your job. We couldn't. So nobody so funa uzifumanela umuntu ozakuncedisa awufuna umtshado uzifunela umntana you are really badly behaved, you lose your job. Even to really uzifunela into oyifunayo ungekho nix futhi ungayithathi ngenkani nithethe kahle navumelana. Because we are able to do these things ourselves. So as I say, as public servants, and a lot has been done. A lot has been done. A lot has been achieved. And we can list all of them. I travel all over the place and find myself as maybe one or two. In the continent, there are only 3 or 4 of us as women ministers in Tanzania, Kenya, and Ethiopia. So as a country, we have made strides. I'm the 4th woman minister for defense. It's a big thing. It's a big thing. We're proud that we have 30% of women in defense. It's a big thing. We need to build on it. We need to strengthen it. But for me, what is more important, our issues are on the table. They are on the table. Our voices are there. And they will say, and which is when you speak to a man, because I want to start counting, want to join a pansy. And now I was joining pansy, but join a permit. There's no problem around it. So we've made strides as women. For instance, when I grew up in a township, so if a husband dies, I'm sure young people are surprised why there are women's hostel. If a man passes away, you lose your house immediately because those are indoor. And then you go to the hostel, the house is given away. That's what used to happen. That's why there are women's hostels. Because it's women who would have lost their husbands, then they were thrown. It's all women who had to leave their homes because their husbands were lost. You go. For them, a family, it meant there must be a man in the house. But today, 50% of households are women-headed households. Siyayirana le mizi futhi siyirana kahle kube futhi ube ne-order, there's order, kube nomgca. And those are the achievements that we have done in this. But we can't also deny the fact that our struggle is ongoing. And that's what I want to go to and talk about, besides what I really think we need to do. is that what we can't deny, and I was talking to Ms. Onditi, maybe for this, let's focus on the theme and say, let's measure ourselves against the theme that we've put here so that we're not all over. And remind ourselves that we find ourselves in a patriarchal space, which is a very difficult space to negotiate or to navigate. It's not an easy space, because it's a space which is in the DNA of people, including ourselves, even as mothers. That we raise boys differently and girls differently and think somewhere on the way they'll be the same. Whereas we have even in our classrooms, boys, if you look at children's books, boys are climbing trees, girls are playing on the ground. So, Chuti, as you say, and I'm really proud to say we stand up with our guns, proud and confident, because we're not raised to be confident. If we climb a tree, therefore we should not climb trees, therefore we should not get into spaces which are very adventurous. So patriarchy is a very subtle form of oppression which needs us to be systematic, and I'm glad it needs us to be organized, needs us to be deliberate, and also needs us to really be very conscious about the spaces that we find ourselves in. Because it's not, as I say, it's in our DNA. And unless we can attend to patriarchy, understand how it operates, it's going to be difficult sometimes to deal with it. Because even the very people that the patriarchy is supposed to serve, it also harms them. It harms us because, as I say, we're judged. We fall pregnant, which was as if you really impregnated yourself. And there was, and as we said, so what's wrong about being pregnant? Because it's God's work and instruction. So why should we judge for that? But the pain with patriarchy, even the very people who are supposed to be beneficiaries of patriarchy, it harms them so much because they can't even help themselves. They get into very dangerous lifestyles, which even tend to harm us, because this whole violence against women is toxic masculinity. Where men think they have the right over our bodies, when they think they have the right to get what they want, they have the right to be violent. And okunye abantu bagcwele emajele yile patriarchy baxelela into ezirong. That they get into an activity which I'll tell you, and it is badala, it will not even last 30 minutes. Uze uyogwetshwa for life. I mean, if you rape, you can't really have sex for an hour. Then you are going to end up having a life sentence. Gento bungayicela or wayithenga abuthi siyathengiswa musapho kakhe nakho ngxaki nakhona into engenangxaki nje. But the problem of patriarchy is also this aggression. So, and unfortunately, it affects us also as women, because women who have been subjected to some of the men, let alone that they have to lose children or lose their lives. I'm raising kids that are grandchildren where futhi sim-advise kakhulu sithi nohlala naye umcacisele uba le nto yenu ayisebenzi, ucela ukuhamba singazokulanda. And as soon as this young girl tells this man to he shoots he kills her and kills himself, then they leave us with 2-year-olds. That's what patriarchy does. He must have the last word. It's very harmful to everybody, and we have to be able, as I say, I'm glad that the only way we can is to work with men and women to make sure that we can be able to help ourselves out of these negative effects of toxic masculinity. I also worked as an MEC for social development in Gauteng. So I used to work with sex workers and, just to get women in the streets to say, let's talk, let's see how we can help you. But what was striking to me is that most of those girls were sex workers, young girls were violated. Because which young girl wants to be deflowered? It just finishes those girls and it leaves them with scars for life. They don't know how scaring it is to be violated. And those are the things that I think even men have to be raised to say, it's not worth it. They want to destroy this girl and because we have to fight for it. But I'm sure come to bakumbuza ukuthi naba bavalele bethuna yeke lento cela uzawuphiwa xa uzophiwa akho ngxaki mosilento ingaxoxwa kakuhle and ucela entangeni ungazithatheli apho ebantwaneni wenze and just destroy a child for life. And that's why we need men on our sides. But and that's why this day now excites me. It excites me because it shows so many characteristics about us as women, which we have to cherish and at all the time celebrate. As I say, when we were young activists, we used to to say, hey, we're poor. And they would relate to us to say, no, a resolution was passed in 1954 at our conference in Masilinga in the East Rand. And for 2 years, consistently, we organized towards that day. And for me, it's a sign of how, when we are determined, we can make things happen. 2 years without cars, phones, money, consistently under extreme repression. Oman Peter will tell you that we used to jump because sometimes and you use that opportunity. They say we used to jump in what to say teams and they used to jump in what to say Natali, the soccer team, and then they pretend to be amateur leaders, can't organizer. So they will not be detected. Even on the day, they used to, it really used to. So then Mamu Sulu, so how did you gather? They say that we knew what the enemy was going to do. It was going to stop us. So people had to come arriving in groups from different parts of the country. On the day, we had to come as if we were workers, so it took us a whole day even to convene towards it. Again, it shows our resilience, our patience, and just and it's a characteristic that we have. And I was glad when this other one says, it may be difficult, I think it's career limiting, but we are a very resilient stock of people that we should be able to capitalize on our resilience for us to succeed and not look for shortcuts. Mamutwa would say, and I used to ask, we knew these boys will shoot at us. So we asked some domestic workers to come with white kids on their backs, and we knew they would not shoot. And indeed, they didn't shoot, because there were white kids on the back of domestic workers. And that's who we are, to organize ourselves consistently and look for ways to solve our problems, because impact track is very subtle and very difficult. And if we don't apply our minds, we won't be right. So now I think our strength is in our ability to organize ourselves, and that's why I'm very happy that we have this forum. When I went to C-Log, where women have organized themselves so that we can start, or we can continue. I'm not seeing myself as starting. We can continue our struggle to fight against patriarchy. So I'm very glad that we have done it. And also in organizing, that's what we ngatana, and that's me my inyanda. Yeah. So we're unbreakable when we're united. But to be inyanda, it means it's time, it's patience, it's way. That comes overnight. So just to pick up 3 sticks and go. But when inyanda, it means you must be patient, it takes time, it takes patience, and it's heavy. but its power is beyond just brittle sticks that you can break. So if we organize this way in the different formations, as you correctly say, look at the things that we need to mentor young people and not abantwana bayakhuliswa. Now that's my philosophy. I don't get impatient with young people. It's part of growing. We are baka. We are nini, but you don't lose patience with young people because abantwana abazikhulisi bayakhuliswa. So I do appreciate us to even have programs like mentoring, speak to our young people, speak to women in distress, because our space is not easy. Not only, it's not easy. Even in organization, no Ramaphosa, no one. So it's a space that you have to negotiate, not easy. It's not an easy space. You have to negotiate your way through without selling your soul. Even in government, you are one and you are teaching or banotid. And badlali golf bonke into baziqeda le nithi fika le sasixoxiwe ziphelile, and you have to be able to negotiate your way around. So it's not an easy space. And it's a space which has lots of stereotypes. I like telling this one before I really go to my last point. I was campaigning Kuma elections too. So we are judged, as you correctly say, sometimes maybe wrongfully, but most of the time wrongfully. So I go to a classroom, your campaign is on 20, so I want to address, invited, but I was Gumala. You can't stand here because that's where the Mfundisi stand. Speak from there. And this is a classroom which the next day there's going to be a woman teacher to stand here, but today I'm contaminating because I'm a woman. So we also have to raise awareness to, umistress ini kuyaqhunyiswa qala na ukuthi kufakwe incense or kufakwe impepha ukuthi indawo ihlanziseke. So to even find ways of conscientizing ourselves to say these stereotypes about women, about negativity for women is unreal. So so we have to be very patient even with ourselves, because as I say, it's a woman who had invited me and was telling me that I can't stand in front. It's in the classroom because kuzomumfundisi la. Diamond is going to dimele paya, and I didn't fully vote. I was found dimele paya and the pan on by Aiko and I know sometimes that I am umfundisi. So what do I get now? I'm funa no contete now. So already, as I say, I don't see myself so to institute. Now I'm happy to hear really from yourself, because now I come with the humility to say, now we've been led outside, but in this department there are people who came before me, and when I spoke to me, so quite clearly had worked out what needs to be done, had put systems in place, and all we have to do as women is to continue to be organized. That we must do. Continue to be organized, continue to educate, continue to empower ourselves and each other. And if you think you can do it on your own, I tell you, ngeke. Buzathina kuma organize. Fantu umanu thetha nabafazi kube ne gender ticket, otherwise ngeke. So don't think you can do it on your own. You can do with others and rise. Watch Mama Tiger that lift as you rise. And open up the space for others. Because when the space is open, now you have enough space yourself. But if you close space, you're going to be enclose yourself in that space. So we have to make sure that we close each other. Because as I say, this struggle is not only for us alone. It is good for us to make sure that we have the necessary space, our voices are heard, our issues are on the table, we have systems to implement them. But women empowerment, and we have to even make the nation aware that if you disempower women who constitute more than 50% of the nation, you are leaving half of your nation out, which is a big problem. You are going to then function near half year. It's not healthy. If you look at all development indicators, they can only improve when the lot of women improves. I'm from education. It's homes of mothers who are enlightened or educated where kids succeed. So your indicator on education is going to advance when your women advance. Children raised by educated women, their health profile is improved. So which means your indicator on health also improves if you improve the position of women. So it's not a favor to have women empowered. It's a national need. It's very important for the nation to be empowered by empowering women, because the nation cannot develop adequately unless its women are empowered. And even departments, unless we empower our women, our progress is going to be slowed down by a number of factors that we see. I know when deployment we see, and there's the so which means we have half safe. If we have 30% of your deployed forces, so which means 30% is safe. So at least we are on safe grounds. So that's the importance of empowering women and getting them into spaces that they've never been in, because one improvement when women come in. And as I say, we take it from the predecessors. It's not a favor. I don't think it's a favor that women are empowered. It's not a favor that women fight for equity, not even equality. Because to say equality is to assume that we're moving from the same platform. So there must be a conscious and a deliberate effort to assist women so that we can assist in spaces where we are in. It's actually a favor that we're in these spaces. Because when we are there, things happen. When you were talking about fraternization, so but okay, and I just want to be assertive. Mom lenko vela ay. If you now ume apubu kon ba hey mandiyeke lento izamxakekisa. So uvela khuze futhi ay imaqala. So those are the things. But for me, as I say, I will say to women in defense and women in Lendo, empowering women, it's the best thing, not only for ourselves. It is important for us to be empowered, to be safe, to teach people about it harms the patriarchy, because it's very harmful. It's very harmful. It's undermining. Half the time, it's very stressful. So half the time you are fighting. It's not a space that you really become productive. But as much as we always say, what is a home without a mother? What is a nation without its women? It's nothing. It's nothing, and we should not be it's nothing. There's no nation without its women that will succeed. When you deal with a home, there's no mother. That's why they're doing things that they do, because they are orphans. We are an orphan. But Tina on our own, Jobandi Chonji. So Bambango. Bame straight namabafana namantombazana ubachati sexibeki namakhwengane uyibambe wedwa umzinje ingakho futhi kunganyakazo. Kodwa ke masenomtherha fanele amane ezobona kuzoncediswa okanye kumane kuthathwa abantwana kubona bakuzawumoshakala if you can leave them with the men. So we can't leave our nation with men alone. Akuzuba ne progress. So for our sake, but our responsibility to say, and not even starting with 56, who were in 1913, who were sleeping on cement, fighting against the past laws, and these women fought consistently. And we were told in 1956 it was the biggest march to confront apartheid head on. And even that 10,000, they say it was nothing because lots of buses were turned back. They were told to go, so it shows our power if we're determined, if we're focused, if we're deliberate, and that's what we should do also in the department. So just we remain organized, that we do it consistently, and in different areas where we think we need to plug in, because at different levels we're going to need different things. Whether we become mentors, we become support, we do what, and it can be a one day. Today it will be reproductive health of women, so that people should not think we're the same. We're equal, but we're not the same. So that if you're a young girl, you fall pregnant as if there's a crime in being pregnant, so puma with training, so we are fanti bakuvumelubuye kulo training, because into buyenza joba nje umsebenzi kaThixo esiwenzayo. So there's no crime. There's no crime. I mean, in education, I used to be criticized, I allow pregnant girls in schools. As if, and because if you're a minister, I wasn't ukuziphendulela kuzothi arrogant. Fanele uthule noma uqhapha konba hey abantu funa ukubaphendula. Ndabaphendula kanye eKimberley, but these kids fall pregnant in your homes. Hayi esikolo sanizonibuza ngabantwana aba pregnant enibazise apha be pregnant because sine desk apha akho bed, so there are no children were made here. And I got into such trouble about that remark because I was penduled. But the fact was that, and that's why monitoring is very important. The girls that we had allowed to come back didn't have multiple beds. The ones that never came back to school, and the very girls that we had allowed back became our ambassadors. Hey, utata lo mase umphile kwathini wangena engxakini uhamba nje ukuthi ethi umamkhizi ubona omnye ngomso. So we're using even these young girls as our ambassadors to say don't be fooled. And that's why even ourselves have to tell others to say mntanam develop. That's why I have to be mentors. Develop. And so that even those that were hurt are the ones who are able to tell the story. So now I want to say to the leadership, again I want to thank UDM to say we will be hosting this forum. We will also, men and women, and also look at, as you said, General, look at the defense acting areas of discipline and say, what are the things we have to do more? Because it's going to happen, and that's why every year, to assess progress, new challenges, and deal with obstacles, and remain organized. Without being organized, we had to be organized. So we have to be organized on an ongoing basis and be able to correct and build each other, but be able to have programs that we monitor. And I was very happy with the briefing that I got and got very encouraged. Otherwise, I was happy with the report that you gave.